September 24th planning board meeting. Before that, I'd just like to thank Kaya Gamp for a couple of years of service on our planning board and her service to the village over the years. We're going to miss her, but we also welcome Alberto Fernandez, who's our new board member, so I'm sure we're going to keep chugging along here. So with that being said, we'll start with continuing business. 14-16 Baker Firms.
That should be adjourned. There's some additional information that was requested previously by Kellett Sessions that we're still waiting for.
Okay, so basically memos have been exchanged.
Yes,
Engineering.
that's right. So we're waiting for responses from the applicant.
Okay, good enough. Next is 8-17 Victoria Home, 25 Malcolm Ave. Good.
Good evening. Mr. Chair, Honorable Board, welcome to the Board, Staff, Council. We're here on behalf of Victoria Home, seeking an extension of the Planning Board site plan approval. And I have with me James Bianco, who's the construction consultant for Victoria Home, as well as the Executive Director, Phyllis Bianco. And Mr. Bianco can speak a little bit as to what's going on that brings us here today. We just recently were at the Zoning Board of Appeals, and a couple weeks ago, and they extended their approvals.
Hello. Yes, we've been here a few times before. We're waiting for the guaranteed maximum price from the construction company. So we've been waiting on that for quite a long time. We have the Department of Health that keeps making some minor changes, that keeps adding price to the price. So we hope to get that. The construction company is targeted the first week in October. So once we get that price, we'll be able to finalize the financing plan. And if everything goes according to our plan, we could be looking at shoveling the ground in January, if everything works out.
Okay. Dave, the permit extension from the zoning board was for how long?
The funny thing, you know this, here in Austin, there's a little bit of a disconnect between the zoning board and the planning board. I don't mean that in a disrespectful fashion, but their extensions only go for 6 months at a time. They cannot give the year, where the planning board extensions are year to year. So every time you get one planning board extension, you need 2 zoning board extensions.
And that was just granted at the last zoning board meeting.
At the August meeting?
Yes.
Okay. And we are on our second now. This would be the second extension, year extension?
Yes, I think so.
I believe you guys are back here.
No, actually, no.
No, we came back to reapproval, it was just this is the first extension.
September 2018 was the site plan, so it's the
Yes,
first
this is the
time.
first extension.
They modified the plan, so essentially we approved it
Right.
1 year ago.
Sorry.
Yeah, there must have been somebody, I think it was them thinking of some sort of.
It was that other guy.
Exactly, exactly. All right, so we need a motion to extend for, I'm assuming, a year?
Yes.
That's what the
Please.
request was? Okay. So to have a motion to extend the.
Motion to extend for a year? I'll second.
Bobby, Jeff, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Good night.
Have a good night.
And 6-19, Sing Sing Prison.
Chair, I think that should be adjourned. There was a discussion before the EAC last month. They were very interested in the project. They're going to be proceeding with conditional use as we talked about in site plan. I can let the board know that we're working on finalizing the lease agreement. And I think hopefully we can have that signed sometime in October so that they can come back to you with actually a signed lease and then proceed with both the site plan and conditional use as was discussed.
Continue our segment approval as this is going to get done in phases.
Correct.
And did we have, Brian, did you do a memo on the shed, or was there?
No, not yet.
Okay.
And does the EAC share their comments with us?
What I'll do is I have the minutes from that meeting and I will get it to you. I don't think that they did a formal consistency review, but I will double check to see. I have to go back and look at it, but whatever they have, I'll get to you folks.
Yeah, so a couple of us toured the site, the prison on Friday, and it's interesting. I mean, being inside, you definitely have a different perspective of how this could all come together. I mean, seeing the inside, seeing how it could be linked was helpful for me, I found.
Yeah.
An interesting tour overall. Okay, great. So we'll adjourn that till October.
Thank you.
And 7-19 Birchbrook Manor.
That, they request an adjournment to the October meeting, please.
Adjourn that to October. 8-19, OBO property.
That is scheduled, that is before the zoning board at their October 15th meeting. I believe it has not gone to the EAC yet because there was a request from Kelly Sessions for a SWIP, and that's one of the things that the EAC wants to look at. I don't think we've gotten that yet,
Okay.
so that's where that is, but it is on the zoning board calendar for October 15th.
Great, okay. So then we'll adjourn that one to it.
Please.
9-19 Squire House, 36 South Highland Avenue.
While JB comes up, this was briefly discussed by the Historic Preservation Commission. They just expressed their interest in the project, but again, since it is interior work, there is no certificate of appropriateness required from the HPC.
And I believe the board, that was the only item the board was waiting for from this time in order to proceed with the approval.
I think we had any opposition against it.
I mean, it sort of exists, I mean, there were 15
Yeah, there were
rooms in
just,
there and they
there
chopped
was,
them up.
there was a
two-family house. right?
two-family, they were making a 4, and that was as of right, and that they were just,
Very minimal, no exterior
Yeah.
work at all, not changed any windows out.
so I think our only concern was if HPC had any comments, and apparently they don't, so I think
They
we
do
should just
not.
move forward with it, in my mind.
I mean, this is one of those ones where sort of this rec fee issue comes up, and I don't, without having the opportunity to talk to the entire board, I mean, maybe we, think about that a little bit more before we act on it. We kind of hold that in reserve, but I think we could move forward with the rest of the application tonight from based how things sound.
Yeah, you could grant conditional use, and if you thought that there was something with regard to rec fees, you can always make that finding, and then that can always go as part of the conditional use permit, if you thought that was necessary.
Like as a condition, or?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Brian, anything to add to this? I mean, I think you did a memo, that's right?
Yeah, we had a memo. We didn't get a resubmission, so I don't know.
No, there was no, because I think the comments were based on mostly the driveway
If
and the
there'll be
site
a-
plan,
so-
so there's no work outside.
Right, a lot of the comments were
Site
because
plan.
we thought the parking lot was getting expanded,
Right.
but in fact, it exists, it was just being formalized now.
Right, and it's
It's
not
not even-
impervious, right? It's gravel.
Right, it's gravel, and this was with a building permit that I believe is being closed right now.
And was there another issue, survey or something, the survey didn't match what, was that an issue, was that?
Right, well, it was show us what exists now, just to
Okay.
determine if the driveway, in fact, was reflected correctly on the plans, but that's been
Okay,
taken care
good
of.
enough, okay, great.
All right.
Oh, I'm sorry, anyone here from the public to speak to this application? Okay, that said, I call for a motion to approve.
Motion.
Michael, make a motion, have a second?
I'll second.
Jeff, all in favor?
Aye.
Great.
Thank you, JD.
The next application is Planning Board 10-19, BAR 18-19, Bradford property, Route 14, 16 Bradford Street.
I believe that's being.
Mr. Chair, this is before the zoning board also, but we do have, I think, a number of folks in the audience who
Okay.
were aware that it was on, so the chair may want to just recognize them, because I think that's some things they wanted to say.
So if anyone's here from the public to speak to this application, please approach the microphone and just announce your name and your address.
Good evening. My name is Reverend Lisa Mara Smith. I am the pastor of the Full Gospel Tabernacle Church located on 15 Brandwood Street. While and there's others here from the community as well to speak regarding this project, and while, we are all in agreement of advancement and development, we are grossly opposed to a bar being built, established, developed directly across the street from the place of where we worship. We are a church of great faith, and contrary to whatever the reason for a bar being selected for this property, we don't have anything in terms of environmental study. So what kind of impact is going to have there? If there's something that has been done, we'd like to see it. a traffic study. We don't have a lot of traffic in that street, but something of that magnitude will definitely have an impact, a negative impact on our worship. We don't have a parking lot. We don't have a designated space where we can park as it is. We had difficulties with the apartment building, but once they realized that we were an active church, they, on Sunday mornings, on various Saturdays, at times if we had a funeral, they would park across, into their driveway. They would pack all their cars in there, but at this point, we would no longer have that courtesy, because even though they're saying they're going to build additional parking spaces and maybe renovate or extend an existing parking lot, with the number of seating that, according to the plan that I seen online, you're talking about 72 people just in total, and now that's not including those that are going to be parking for that work there, those that are going to be, and there's no way that that street is going to be exempt from that parking. I've had visitors come where they've gotten tickets just from parking too close to the bridge. So now what are we supposed to do? Am I supposed to walk with my, my heels and my bags and what I need to do to now try to get into the front door? So I just don't understand how it's even gotten this far. I did see a letter. It wasn't certified. It was just in the mail. So going through all that, by the time I seen it and then understood, the first meeting was already gone. So at this point, I have been rallying together other community leaders, other people within the community to voice and express and stand with us, on this endeavor, that it does not go forth, especially a bar. It's one thing if it was a little corner store, a little deli where, it would be maybe not as much traffic, but something like this, it would have a gross negative impact on our place of worship.
Okay. So bar and parking, those are the concerns, traffic, I think?
Bar, definitely the bar, because from what I understand, there's a New York State rule, like the 200 rule, the 500 rule, so I don't know.
You can only serve beer and wine if you're that close to a church. You can't be a full-service bar where you're a la carte, full bar alcohol. It's just beer and wine is all that can be served that close to a church.
Okay.
So I think the other component to this is not just a bar, I think it's also a restaurant, so.
Right.
And I would let the applicant, at some point, speak to you with regard to what their plans are. I mean, you've obviously seen them online.
Mm-hmm.
As the planning board, we're gonna review all these impacts. We've already had our consultant prepare a memo addressing some of the impacts. So I don't know if you saw that, but there is some data out there now. Again, we're at the beginning stages of a review. So we will continue to study it.
Okay, and as these meetings progress, can I be notified? Because I reached out to Mayor Victoria, I reached out to find out to different trustee boards to find out, hey, when is this next planning board meeting going to take place? Because I didn't get any notification about this date. It wasn't until I initiated an email, and then I see Mayor Victoria respond saying, I need someone to respond to her so that she's aware. So like the details of this.
Reverend, I have your email, since you and I actually communicated.
Oh, so, right, okay.
I will let you know when the next planning board, when it's on again. It is on the zoning board agenda, which is on the 15th of October.
Mm-hmm.
Same room here at 7 o'clock, so just so you know.
Right, so typically we do an initial notice to adjoining property owners, and sort of once it's queued up on the agenda, it stays on the agenda till, we sort of dissect it, put conditions on it, whatever, and then at some point we approve it. But these take a few months, they take several months, so we always just tell everybody stay sort of in touch. You can certainly go on the village website and see when the agendas are published, that, the item will be on the agenda. So, we just really want to let you know to just kind of stay tuned in and just expect to come here every, fourth Tuesday of the month until, we kind of finalize this thing.
Okay, now are these studies, have they been conducted? You said that there were some analysis done. I mean, what analysis were done and what were the results of them?
No, they haven't been done yet. As part of the review process, we look at all the impacts to the environment as far as traffic, stormwater, sewer, just tree removal, all the aspects still yet have to be provided by the applicant and deemed appropriate by the town. So it's at the beginning stages still. We haven't seen their studies yet to even comment and to comment on what they're presenting.
Okay. And are there any other, so when those studies are done, those are now public record, we can be privy to them to understand, even if it's something that hasn't been presented by myself tonight, I don't want to feel as though this is something that's being slid under and we find out kind of by happenstance the way we did initially, because it wasn't detailed in terms of exactly what it was, so.
So back to that, we have open meetings, any of this data that's submitted by the applicant or their professionals gets reviewed by the board, out in the public in an open meeting, and you have your opportunity to come here and, opine.
One other thing, when our agendas are online, for every application we're reviewing, all the materials, the drawings that are submitted to us, there are links to those, and you can open them up essentially in PDF or whatever format they're in. So the agenda on the village website has links that you can click on to see everything that's in front of us. And that's everything that we review, and in addition to what happens in the meeting.
Okay, so is there, and our other concern, which, I'm just thinking it's a lot, we had a meeting about this, a community meeting regarding this project. Some were not able to come tonight, but as this continues, more of the people that were at the initial community meeting, because this is an ongoing endeavor now, straight through the entire process, it was also a concern, even in terms of our safety. Our well-being, we're here, people are walking in churches now, opening fire. That's a street that's very low lit, and now, whether it's wine or beer, you may say, but it doesn't stop someone from becoming intoxicated and their behavior now being altered, and sometimes not for the best. Most often not for the best when they're under the influence of alcohol. So we do have our safety that we're concerned of, because it's poor lighting on that street as well. Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hello, Yvonne Birch. I was here last month.
And by the way, if the previous speaker has brought up concerns about parking or traffic or, hours of operation, you don't necessarily need to bring those up, so we'd ask if you just kind of...
No, I realize that. Yes, I'm familiar with it.
People may say things in different ways, so we don't want to cut everybody off.
True.
Thank you.
Yes, because Reverend Smith is there representing certainly the House of Worship. I'm there as one of the homeowners on that street. And as I mentioned before, parking is an issue. In fact, I go and I take pictures every day, and the street is lined with cars, and they are not the residents' cars. They're the people who work in the community. And if I want to go to the house, I might have to go up to Main Street and park in the post office parking lot and then walk down, and that's not fair. So with another business coming on the street, that will limit our parking abilities even more. And there was another concern. Somebody's been doing work over there for the last 2 or 3 months. And I looked at the building permit. There's a building permit and a plumbing permit that are on the premises. And the building permit was issued March 5th, 2019. And the scope of work was interior renovations, including kitchens, bathrooms, plural, because it was a residence, it was an apartment building. There was no intended use on that permit. For the plumbing permit, which was issued April 5th, the scope of work was to replace the boiler and the water heater in Unit 14 and 17 fixtures, bathtubs, wash basins, and showers. There was a big dumpster out there filled to the brim. I don't know what they were throwing out. The building now has that, I don't know what Tyvek is. I mean,
It's a wrap that goes around the
it's a
building
wrap.
with siding on it.
Okay, so there's a wrap that goes around, there's a railing that has been constructed, there have been some windows, new windows put into the building, and I don't know if if this is legal work or not. I would say no, that somebody is doing work that they do not have a building permit for. So I don't know after a permit is issued, if anyone goes to check the premises to see what is being done, but there are things being done
So for,
right at that
so for
building right
clarification, I
now.
think we could get the building department to give us an update on what permits were issued and what they're for. Our understanding, or my understanding, is that this parcel is gonna still continue to be a residential parcel, and I think the applicant even said the primary use there is gonna be residential, and this restaurant bar is going to be sort of an accessory slash, joint use. But I think the big emphasis here is that the residential will continue, so we'll just need some clarification.
The residential.
I'll get that from the building
The
department.
residence has been vacated. You see the mailbox is stuffed with mail from the last month or two. There are no residents in that building, so I don't know what they're telling them, and I don't know when they got this building permit, when they claimed they were going to be do interior renovations of bathrooms and kitchens. I don't believe that's taking place, so I would request that someone from the building department go to inspect that building to see what is taking place.
We'll do that.
We can have that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And also, they mentioned the Kill Greenway, and having access going down that steep incline that no one in their right mind would do. We already have access to the Kill Greenway by just going around the corner to the Caputo Community Center. There's a wonderful walkway that was constructed, and if you go up around the other way, there's another access on Central Avenue.
Let me just, if there's anyone else here to speak to this, because maybe what we'll do, JB, is after all the folks who had an opportunity to speak, call you up and you can kind of give them an update as to what, the applicant's position is. Anyone else? Okay. JB.
Just wanted to clarify a couple of points. One was that it's going to be a restaurant. There is, as part of the restaurant, there will be a bar, but it's incidental to the restaurant. But most important that there are, I believe, 2 open permits. There are 5 units there, and I can provide the drawings from the building inspector. There are approved drawings. There is a lot of work being done. It's all interior, some exterior, and it's all approved by the building department.
So it's okay for you to have a dumpster out there and fill it up?
Yes, and there are windows being replaced. There is a railing being added. There is a deck being built, and there is renovation going on. And I believe right now we're renovating 3 of the units, and 2 of them are going to be renewed as well. So they all being renewed.
Okay.
And they all have an open permit.
None of the work is related to the proposed
No,
restaurant?
no. Actually, the restaurant will be in the basement, and the addition will be in the lower level, so there is no, the main floor, the upper levels do not change.
Okay.
Thank you.
So some of these other issues, parking, traffic, hours of operation, use, we'll have to continue to discuss this in, upcoming meetings, and, we're obviously doing some, we're studying our end too, and you're working with our consultants, so.
Okay.
Anyone else from the board have any questions or comments, or? Okay, with that being said, why don't we adjourn this till October, and we'll continue to discuss it. So anybody that's here tonight for this, you can come back on the 4th Tuesday in October, and we'll continue to review this.
Can you give the October date?
Sure, that will be October 22nd at 7 p.m. this room. Week before, it's the zoning board. There will be an application, and that will be the 15th in this room also.
Are we moving the October meeting to 7:30? Weren't we talking about doing a?
We were, because of doing our work session a little earlier, if we want to do. Part of that may depend on what we get. At this point, we're at 7. If we want to change the time,
Yeah.
we'll advertise.
I
it, so
think that
everyone
was, the
knows.
thought was at least do a 6:30 work session, so it gives everybody an opportunity to come in and
Right.
talk about some of the bigger projects. Board members have questions about, technical stuff that Brian might be able to help us, get our hands around. But try to continue the 7 o'clock start time, because we don't want to be here until 12 o'clock.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the thing. It's going to evolve like, everything else does.
10:22.
Okay, great. So next on the agenda is 11-19 Con Edison, 22 Market Street.
Yes, good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak before the board today. My name is Michael Jones. I'm an environmental engineering consultant retained by Con Edison. The project we're talking about today is a cut and fill permit that's required as a component of a building demolition. Con Ed owns a 93-plus-year-old building located at 22 Market Street that has outlived its usable purpose. It's no longer energized, and essentially that the building is going to be demolished. With me today, I have the Con Ed construction manager, Alex Medina. And also,
This is the building all the way at the end of the street on the right, that like long brick structure?
yes,
It's been there forever. I thought there was, at one point, they were gonna convert it to some residential or something like that.
There's been talk, we don't really know what's gonna happen. Real estate's involved, so someone's looking to.
So it's a Con Ed facility, you guys have complete domain control over this whole project?
correct. And also have Mike Niehoff, who's the construction manager for the contractor that's doing the demolition work. So this particular building has a large basement, and when we demolish the above-grade portions of the building, we're going to generate a void that creates essentially a wall along Market Street. So we need to backfill that void, and in order to backfill that, we're going to be importing about 2,500 cubic yards of fill material. There's a site plan included in the drawings that you've been provided that shows the grading. We've also prepared a stormwater pollution prevention plan to support that in terms of what stormwater controls will take place. Our intent is essentially just to have the new grading match the existing slope that's on, the building's kind of set into the side of the hillside. So we're essentially just going to restore the site to its pre-existing condition before the building was constructed. The cut and fill permit is required along with a couple other permits to the town. But we were issued a denial letter by the building department that said we had to come before the board, so that's why we're here.
Yeah. The way the building sits now, do you see it from the westerly? If you're out on the river, do you see this building? Is it screened by trees? Give me a sense
We
of.
have Google Maps here.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I'm not-
Yeah, I was just gonna say photo.
Depends on the time of year, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Depends on the time of year, you can see it from the river, I believe.
Yeah, 'cause
Right
this is
now, I don't
pretty
think so.
significant structure on this.
Yes,
I mean,
it's.
a brick, solid building.
It's not brick, it's concrete,
Yeah.
but, yeah, it's significant on that road, it's a monster.
So when you say 2,500 cubic feet, that's what, about 100 truckloads of fill? Is that?
Well, it's cubic
Yes.
yards.
Cubic yards.
Cubic yards, so 25-yard truck?
Yeah, yeah,
100
that's a-
truckloads of material?
That's a good.
We haven't calculated,
Okay.
yeah, but in those numbers, yes.
Okay, so maybe think about the impact of that trucking into a residential neighborhood, so we can think about ways to maybe do it at off hours or.
Mike, what's the address?
22 Market.
Maybe there's ways you
Well, our
guys can bring
contractor
in.
has been notified to contact the police department, so the police department is on board. If we need them, they can patrol the streets for us, alternate parking, or, let the tenants know the day or a week before, no parking.
Because I just don't want to say yes to what you're doing here, and then all of a sudden, 2 days into the project, we're getting calls from everybody on Market Street saying, we're dealing with dust and noise and diesel fumes and all that kind of stuff, so.
What's the as-of right zone? Is it residential?
PW.
Behind you, by PW.
Yeah, that's
Waterfront.
planned waterfront A, I think.
It says B.
Is it B? Okay.
So this is.
This is it, yeah.
Yeah, the only access to the site is on Market Street.
There's Hill Street on the other side, and we actually have a temporary access agreement with the adjacent property owner.
This is a one-way, right? On Market?
No,
No,
it's
it's
two-way.
two-way.
That's a dead-end
It's a
road,
dead end,
though.
yeah.
Right at the mouse is a dead end. If you turn it down,
Because that's a great structure. About 10 years ago, somebody was gonna come in and do like sort of not a condo, but, 3 or 4 units.
yes. Con Ed, I wasn't with Con Ed at the time, but I know some of my current colleagues were there 10 years ago, where there was issues with the tenants and everything, but they were there scoping out what they can do
Yeah.
in the future. But nothing, we're here today.
Anyone else from the board have comments on this?
I'm just, so the intention is to raise and fill the site and then sell it, or?
I cannot answer
So
that.
the current action is just to
To
demolish it.
demolish the
Demolish.
So where's the retaining wall gonna go in the
So
front?
the road goes up on a hill.
Yeah.
We're gonna leave it 1 foot above grade,
Okay,
so that's gonna be your line.
got it.
So 1 foot above grade, you're just gonna.
So
the
essentially,
retaining wall or just cut the building?
Well, we're gonna leave the existing wall.
Leave the existing wall,
Yes.
just cut it.
And we're
Okay.
gonna brace it. That's,
Okay.
these, Arcadis has engineered for us.
Brace
That'll
it
stay
and
on.
backfill it.
Correct.
yes.
I mean, if that's 90 years ago, I'm sure that's a solid, what, 12?
We were
14,
talking about this
16
at
inches.
dinner. I mean, they built this
It's-
to last.
Yeah,
It's in amazing shape.
It's a substantial structure.
it hasn't moved at this point, it'll never move.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just unfortunate they couldn't find somebody else to
Repurpose it somehow,
repurpose it.
but the building at this point is in
It's a
bad shape.
shell, right?
Yeah, it's in bad shape. It's not as good as it looks here.
The roof, is this structure heated now, or is it just totally?
No, it's
No,
completely.
It just
no
completed
utility.
the abatement not too long ago. so
So no active utilities or?
No.
It's all about the difference.
We usually get criticized for taking away reviews. We're gonna create some reviews here. I just want everybody in the public
Please,
to
beautiful
give us some
news.
credit for that tonight. By way of Con Edison. Okay. Guys, Brian, Stuart, any comments, concerns?
No, Michael, this will be a standard excavation and fill permit approval, and it will, they'll comply with the provisions of the village code, which deal with, maintaining the area. That all goes into the permit and all those sections there. And I know there's been contact with the building department, and, we do get calls sometimes from folks in the area wondering what's going on, but
Sure.
that's why, and this is one of those permits which requires your approval, so that's why.
Yeah, I mean, it's a
coming.
significant amount of fill
That's
getting
why.
ordered, so just, I think with the one caveat is that we really want to make sure that it's a coordinated sort of project, that you're coordinating with the neighborhood in some fashion.
We do. We have a public relations crew with Con Ed. I was just talking to him about a dust control plan, so we'll have all that set in motion before.
Right, and then we usually, you provide the manifest for whatever you're
Yes.
importing.
Yes, that's, our
Yeah. that's
construction
your protocol.
inspectors will not let
Yeah.
a truck leave without a manifest. There'll be vibration monitors set up just to
Right.
make sure there's no additional movement when we go home. So we have a lot of things set in
Yeah,
place.
and just like long-term, it'd be a slope, I'm assuming with some kind of type of vegetation.
Correct.
Correct.
Whether that's turf grass that you will have to
The
mow,
seed, I believe the
or
seed mixture is
if
actually
you have
on
like
the
a
plan.
conservation type, low maintenance.
That's the idea.
Okay.
It should be on
You don't see any point in planting trees if it's.
No, just,
Yeah.
just
Just grab it.
Yeah.
keep it maintained.
I mean, I guess at some point they would sell, I mean, the opportunity presents itself, and we could deal with,
Any kind of like fence or barrier plan for the,
The property will be fenced with a chain link fence around it.
permanent.
Yes.
Can we think about another material? I mean, we're kind of discouraging people to do the chain link fence, maybe, some sort of a vinyl.
I'm sure we could talk
Finish
about
type
that. Yeah, I
thing,
mean, right now, what's in motion is the chain link. We're not at that point. Well, we have the temporary up. So, I mean, there is time to talk about it.
I'm sorry.
I'm just curious, I mean, the site has been remediated for asbestos, so, and then it's clean fill, so there's not the danger of the site itself being, what's that site on Park that, next
Oh, where
to-
the gas is and
where the playground where
the
you
monitor
like,
tank
you
monitor,
can't
yeah.
go on, you can't walk on it.
Well, we've had some parcels in Austin over the years might have had gasoline leaks and things like that where the water's in the sub.
I believe you have one down the road on Snowden, the MGP site. I don't know if that's the one you're talking about, but we do constant monitoring
Right.
That's,
down there.
yes, I know
I mean, it's
exactly
just
what
not-
you mean.
this-
it's not a
see,
toxic
this is
site.
totally-
That's the old gas facility.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are completely
Yeah, this
separate
is-
properties.
Nothing like that.
Well, I think the big thing is clean fill,
Right.
manifest, documentation. I mean, it's Con Ed, I don't think they're gonna
No.
buy fill from some guy somewhere that, fly by
We
night.
are held to a high standard, Con Ed, so
I mean, we can discuss fencing, changes, but, the site is currently fenced, so the only fence we'd have to be adding is
Yeah.
immediately along the face of the
I
building.
mean, we have a primer, I don't know if it's online, but it sort of gives you a good sense of the types of fences we want to see. So, I mean, my suggestion would be something that's, vinyl, maintenance-free, sturdy, it would last a long time.
I'm sure. I
the rest of the board
don't want to speak for my manager, but I'm sure after I talk to my manager tomorrow, I mean, that this is a conversation we can have as soon as possible. I don't see that being an issue.
I would think we'd make that a condition for the approval, that way Joe, the building inspector, would kind of just have the final okay with the fencing.
Not a problem.
Yeah,
Good.
or fencing in accordance, you were mentioning, it's basically the architectural guidelines, so something in fencing that follows our village's architectural guidelines would cover it for me.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I had one thing I wanted to say, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I spoke with Paul Frioli recently, and some of his people came out. We're working the project actually from a vacant lot. It's on the north end of the building. I don't know if we have a
See that
site
small
plan.
house on the right bottom? In front of that, that's a lot where that neighbor owns the back of it, across the street from that.
maybe just zoom up to,
Turn to the left.
Well, don't ask, you're talking to a moron here.
Well, it's so hard to see the cursor.
The council didn't say that. That was.
Oh, yeah, we did say it, it's perfectly fine. You can,
All right, right there.
There it is,
Yeah,
yeah.
So see that green pasture, the
Yeah,
grass?
yeah.
I got you.
That's the backyard of that
You're
neighbor.
talking about here.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're utilizing that, that's where our trailers are.
And this is Hill Street, right?
Correct.
Yes.
That's Hill Street, correct. There's a large rolling gate in front of the property, but there's an existing sidewalk and curb there. What we would like to do is cut that sidewalk and curb for the part of the time that the trucks are gonna go in and out with, either concrete for recycling or steel for recycling or for backfilling. And our contract right now with Con Ed says, once we are done with the project, that we would leave a driveway entrance. We would repair that sidewalk and turn it into a driveway entrance. And Paul suggested I discuss that with you to see if the board has any issues with having a driveway entrance to a vacant lot.
You own that, or you here as well?
We're leasing that.
You're
through
leasing it, okay.
That small
Yeah.
house with the blue roof, it looks like, he owns that property. We're leasing it from him.
And the lease continues beyond for,
It's indefinite. Well, we have a contract for a certain amount of days, so I don't know if he has an extension.
and that's where you want to leave the curb cut? Or,
We can either
Yeah.
construct a curb or we can put the sidewalk back the way it was. Our contract right now asks us to put a curb in, but I don't think Con Ed cares necessarily one way or the other.
Con Ed wanted to leave
The
it.
people who own the lot would like to have a driveway entrance there. but
I think the concern that Paul had was that, I think you folks put the driveway in for you to gain your access, correct? In other words, that driveway was not, that was put in as part of the work that you guys are doing. Am I
Yes.
correct? Because I think one of the concerns that the engineer had is that this could have an impervious surface issue, because we're putting in a driveway where, effectively, there isn't a driveway right now. In terms of a curb cut for you folks to put your stuff in, that's a matter of just getting a permit from the village engineer, because they actually give the curb cut permits. But in terms of a long-term solution, to keep it or not, I know the engineer just mentioned to me that that was a concern as to if the property owner does want to essentially keep the driveway and effectively keep the curb cut, he would probably have to come before this board to essentially get the okay to do that, because it's his property.
Right.
And whether or not there's an issue there and whether there's a variance that he would need, that's something he would have to do. But in terms of you folks being able to make the curb cut, to be able to bring your stuff back and forth, that's just a permit that would have to be made to the engineer to do that. I can't see that that would be an issue. But as to long-term, that would really be the property owner would have to come, may have to come here.
I mean, it's hard to say without knowing much about that property or its future potential.
It's impossible, yeah, but without the owner being the one to basically be the one to do it, because it's ultimately.
And it's unique, 'cause it's a PWB, so it's probably got some of those waterfront elements where, if you could assemble parcels and it could turn into something bigger, but, again, who knows?
Don't know.
We only know, what's a purpose of the
Right,
elements. so.
correct.
Okay, so if I could have a motion.
If someone wants to speak.
I'd like to say
I'm sorry.
something. Yep.
I didn't realize we had any public left.
Yeah.
Welcome.
I'm still public.
The big public.
My biggest question about this is, where is this going in the future? You're approving, erasing something, fill in, and then what? And for how long? I appreciate the thoughts around what kind of fence is going to go up there. But as you mentioned, Mike, we are in the waterfront area where we are trying to create a different environment than we've had so far. To have a vast, debilitated piece of property that we don't have any future, and we don't have any points in the future of what's going to happen here, or if anything is going to happen. I think this board should put up some requirements, and that can be landscaping. Minimal requirements for shrubs, trees, ground cover. This is a must until whoever owns it, or whoever is going to own it in the future, will have an idea about how they will use it, whether it's going to be sell it for housing, whether it's going to be for small light industry and combine, whatever it is. There should be a requirement that it just cannot lay bare.
So it's interesting, because all the years I've sat on this board, we've always had excavation and fill permits from a homeowner or a business or whatever, and there was an intent to establish or create something so that they could use it with the purposes of them, occupying and living on the property. So this is a little bit unique. It's sort of like, okay, we're gonna tear it down, sort of mothball it until we figure out what the next steps are, the next life of this property is. So I guess it's just a question of maintenance. I mean, if it wasn't,
It's more than maintenance. We don't have a plan for what this is going to be in the future. We didn't have a plan for Market Square in the 70s during urban renewal when that was just erased. We have a lot of property down there that is currently in a place where it can become something else. So I really think a minimal amount of landscaping and even public access with landscaping that keeps the soil in place, that will not be in danger to people, will be a better solution to grant this okay. Why not? You got the power, guys.
Yeah, so what?
Well, let me just say one
Suggestion.
thing. We can't grant access to private
No,
property.
but you could say this at least will have to be in a place so that it doesn't have to be cordoned in by a fence in order to prevent people from hurting themselves. There's a difference.
Well, yeah,
There's a
except,
difference
there is
between
except we can't force them to
You
impose
can,
certain
of course you
liability on
cannot, you
themselves.
cannot do that, and
So,
you cannot
I'm
do
just-
that, of
So,
course.
I
But a
understand.
visual,
I'm hearing,
a visual.
kind of up the game on the screening, I get
Yeah.
that. So if the board's okay with that, I think, the applicant can come back and maybe kind of give us a sense of something other than just grass, I guess. I mean, I think you've heard us kind of talk about maybe
Yeah.
not chain link fence, but something a little bit, closer to what sort of our standards, what we want, our published standards. I guess do the same thing with landscaping.
Yeah, especially since there is no plan with a date for this.
If we're gonna go down that road, though, it should be low maintenance, because it seems, whatever the landscaping is, designed to be low maintenance, because this is just the kind of site you can see, just becoming completely overgrown, so if it's,
What's below that building down the hill?
Well, I think there's a bit of a buffer. I think Hudson Water sits beneath that. I think it's, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, you're correct. There's
can you pan down?
kind of owns the slope all the way down to the building.
Yeah, so your lot's at this
You have a
full.
little
Yeah.
buffer there.
Yeah, it's a big, big lot.
Well, that's always a challenge, because again, we usually approve these things because someone's there occupying it. And
Right.
like Jeff said, this is gonna be something where, it could go many, many years with really not
Yeah,
being utilized, so.
I think actually the shrubs would be, I think it's a fair request because of water issues, rain.
It'll soak it up.
Sure, it will help that water from just cascade down that hill and be a problem for the downhill. I think it's a fair request, since we don't know how long that lot is gonna sit empty.
anyone else
Well,
care
I'm
to
just, the
comment?
building absolutely has to come down, maybe I missed that part of the presentation, but.
Well, I mean, here's the thing.
Did I?
10 or 15 years ago, somebody had proposed, or there was talk of converting it to
Right.
residential. It was always an industrial power type thing or whatever it was, but there was really no traction there, so I guess, we didn't really ever, I don't think we ever, we might have had a submission, but I don't know if we ever really acted on it. It's like 10 or 15 years ago.
I mean, I guess my question is the building a public safety issue if it continues to stay there?
The building has not been condemned due to public safety. The building owner has made a determination that they have no longer useful purpose for it, and it's will continue to deteriorate from its current
So it's a
condition.
maintenance issue for Con Ed in terms of the long-term.
No violations, right? There were no violations by the building department?
No.
Okay, so it's just a dormant building that's, hasn't found a,
It's an
reuse.
eyesore, it's an eyesore, yeah. I know the building.
It takes up the
It
whole
does-
block.
It does
yeah,
not
it's a
look good.
significant structure.
It's not helping the village in any way.
All right, so then,
I have a question. So right now, I think we have a minimal topsoil drawing or low maintenance, which is, what we're talking about now, is that gonna stop us from getting this permit? I mean, can we proceed and in the meantime develop something a little bit more shrubs? I'm sure we can address
The
any of
question
those
is, do you
concerns.
want to do what we sometimes do with the other boards, which is that you grant it, and then, let's say you designate 3 members, it's not a full quorum, to basically see what you're looking in terms of shrubs, and if it's okay, they can essentially do that, rather than essentially hold the permit over another month. This way, they can at least get themselves started.
Sure.
Because
Yeah.
if they
If
don't-
I can voice the situation that Con Ed is in right now, they have retained a contractor that is mobilized to the site,
Okay.
and we have been told by the building department that they will not issue a required permit for the bracing that we need to put in the basement in order to demolish the structure. So this project is a complete standstill, and essentially it's costing Con Ed some money.
I would be okay if we also delegate, in addition to the shrubs, the fence.
Yeah, that's fine.
right, so whatever conditions come out of the,
Okay.
Yeah.
approval.
Yeah, I'm
Guys,
sure we
work
could
conditions,
definitely
I'm
agree on
sure-
that.
Yeah, that's not, I don't see that being an
That's
issue.
Okay, so we fence, planting, you'll like it or anything, right? It's gonna be-
lighting right now.
No, no. All right, so then, anybody else here to speak to this? All right, that said, why don't we call for a motion to move along this excavation and fill permit subject to,
Are we designating
You can
members,
designate,
or-
if there are, let's say, 3 members or 2 members who just want to basically, review what Con Ed is going to, submit with regard to, let's say, shrubs or plantings or fence, they're okay with it, then this will be granted. That way, it will expedite the process and we can get this put ahead.
And we can meet as soon as you guys are available.
well, I think what's gonna happen is you'll submit whatever you're proposing to the building department or the planning board secretary, and then she'll reach
She'll
out
let
to
you
us,
guys
and we'll
know, and
come
that's it.
take a
So
look
as
at
soon as
this.
we
So
get
let's
upstairs,
submit our plan with.
just
shrubs.
upstairs
Right.
and let them know, and then we'll get in touch with planning board members.
So, anybody care to serve on the special subcommittee, Blue Ribbon
I have no problem doing it.
panel? or- Jeff?
I can do it, I can walk
Bobby?
there, it's fine.
Dave?
Perfect.
Alberto?
That's fine.
Alberto?
Fine, got it.
So Jeff, Bobby, and Alberto. So again, the motion is to approve the excavation fill permit subject to fencing coming back to us and reviewing the fencing and the planting schedule, I guess, that you guys submit.
Right.
Can I have a motion?
I'll move.
Jeff?
I'll
Second. Bobby, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, great.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it. Okay, last but not least, approval of minutes.
I just want to make sure you have the right resolution for Atria.
Great. So our next meeting is October, what did you say?
22nd.
22nd. Great, thanks.
Folks, just so you know, with regard to Atria, which is one of the site plan resolutions that you approved last month, there have been extensive discussions between Kellard Sessions and with regard to the village engineer, specifically as to the, let's call it the sewer work that's going to be done, that will be paid for by Atria. And that's actually now in the resolution, specifically what's going to be done, how much they will pay. The plan is that they're going to do that payment actually at the time of the building permit application.
Okay, so this is on-site sewer work, or is this off-site?
This is
Have
off-
Brian can explain
Yeah,
that.
this is off-site to help mitigate the increase in sewer flows that the project will generate, and to also meet the county's requirement for the inflow and infiltration, the I&I mitigation. So basically, the village determined that downstream of the site, there was a problematic manhole. So what we're proposing to do is reconfigure some of the manhole and piping to improve the condition, not only now, but as these increased flows come, so that the infrastructure can handle it. So that's part of what's the applicant is required to do.
And they consented to do that,
Yeah.
voluntarily pay for, okay.
Yes.
Now, the same issue with water, is there any issues with the water service, is that,
No, there's no mitigation. They do need, they'll have to go to the Department of Health for any approvals, but there's no off-site mitigation required.
you have a comment about that? Good, good catch. Okay.
I got the right one, Steve.
With that said, we'll adjourn, and we'll see everybody in October. Thank you.